and welcome back to my channel, Designs by Dana. I'm Dana and I'm also Close to My Heart consultant. Today I'm going to be working with the Cherish paper packet and stickers. And these are the pattern papers in the packet. You can see I've already cut into this packet, but these are 3 of the pattern papers and the product strips, which we like to call zip strips, that have designs on one side. And these 3 patterns also have patterns on both sides of the paper. So you actually get 6 patterns in each packet. And this packet also came with the sticker sheet. So anytime I buy a pack of pattern paper, I also buy the stickers with it, at least for the first packet that I buy. And this is also the coordinating cardstock. And as I lay this out, you can see that our cardstock has a light and a dark side to each color of the cardstock. So you can see that nicely. I also plan to use the coordinating embellishments with this project, and these are like little chipboard or paperboard punch out embellishments, which will work real nicely on the layout that I plan to do with you today. And finally, I plan to use this Cherish scrapbooking stamp set in thin cut. It is item Z8039. And we're going to use that as well. Now I'm going to do a double page layout today. So we're going to pull in both of my Versamats, and I really like my Versamats, and it's nice to have 2 for occasions like this. Now these are my photos, and this is how I plan to lay them out. This is my half sister and her wedding dress shopping and shopping for dresses for her recent wedding. Now I've already pre-random stamped the background of my paper, and this is the mink paper, and I'm showing you here that we are using the light side. And while I random stamped, I thought it might be kind of neat to add a little yellow to the centers of the flowers. So I tested that in an area that wouldn't show, and I decided that I really didn't like that. So we're just going to leave the background just lightly random stamped. And I'm going to bring in my pieces of paper here, and I've got everything pre-cut, and I also pre-inked everything. And I like to ink these papers with a neutral color, so I often will use charcoal as my go-to color for inking the edges of my paper. And that's just kind of one of my go-to styles. I really like the effect that the soft inked edges gives with this type of paper and the style of paper. So I'm going to dry fit this out and just lay everything out according to my vision. And you can see that both sides of the layout really mimic each other, with the exception of the left side having the dovetailed pieces versus the right side just being strips all the way across. And then I bring in the highlight of the layout, which is this panel that uses the folded ribbon technique. And then I've got tiny pieces here that are 1/8 strips just to kind of border that and tie it all together. Now, I thought my camera was on earlier when I did that folded ribbon piece, and it wasn't. So I'm going to set that aside and show you how to create that folded ribbon effect. If you haven't made it before, it's really easy to make. So this piece of paper I have, I believe it was 2.5 by 12 inches. You can do any size that you want. But what I'm doing here is I'm bringing in my pencil, and the strips of paper I cut are 3/4 inch. So I'm making a little tick mark every 3/4 inch all the way down the piece of paper. And I'm going to do that on both sides. So while I'm doing that, just a little bit of background on this technique is when you're cutting your strips of paper, you can do it with any size of paper. You can do it with 1/2 inches. I recently did some cards where I used 1/2 inches, and you can incorporate your zip strips that way. And then if you do that, you would want to make your tick marks a 1/2 inch apart all the way down, whatever size of paper you're using. So the tick marks should coordinate with the size of your paper strips, whether it's a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or so on. So I'm finishing off those tick marks, and then I'm going to bring in my paper strips. And obviously you can use 2 different patterns of paper, which is what I've done here. And I've cut these about 4 inches, so they're going to hang over the edge, which is a little bit easier than trying to, since they're diagonal, make them fit perfectly. So I'm starting up here in the very top corner, and I'm going to line that up with my first tick mark. So it's actually going to line up in between the tick marks since they're 3/4 an inch apart. And I'm going to repeat that process through the tick marks all the way down. I'm only going to do a few here just to show you how this process works. I have another layout in mind that I want to use another panel for this for later in the month. So this will be a good beginning for that layout. So now I'm going to turn this over and bring in my other piece of paper. And the key thing here is just make sure that whatever paper you want in the background is what you put down first, obviously. So I'm going to start in the opposite corner and line that up with the center of the first piece. And then I'm just going to repeat. So it's really going to line up with each piece of paper on the diagonal. So we're just going opposite directions on the diagonals. And I'm using my Mono Tombow Air for this, which is awesome adhesive. And I'm going to put one more down just so you can get a good visual of the beginning of this piece and how that works. And that's basically it. It's really, really easy technique, but it gives you a beautiful look. And then all you have to do is come in and cut off all of those excess pieces. So it's so much easier than trying to line everything up perfectly. Now, since my project has all of the papers edged with that charcoal ink, what I did at this point is I went back then and edged the edge of this panel with the charcoal ink for the layout that I'm on. But if you're not edging your papers, then it wouldn't matter. So you can see how I created that panel. So let's get all of this out of the way, and we will resume back to our normally scheduled layout process video. So here we have our pieces all together, and they're all dry fit. And I've got everything adhered down at this point. And so now it's time to embellish, which is really the fun part. So I knew I wanted to use this Memories title, which came out of the embellishment packet I showed you at the beginning of the video. And I'm going to use several pieces out of there as well. And one of the hacks that I like to do is to use wax paper. And it allows me to kind of audition where I might want to use some of my stickers. And you'll notice I put that big floral swag, I think that's what those are called, down there at the bottom of her focal picture on the left. And that's because she's standing on that green carpet that I just thought was kind of ugly. And I wanted to cover that up. So I put that there very intentionally. And now I'm going to speed this up a little bit, but you'll notice that I always like to use the foam tape, and I like to pop my stickers up with thick and thin foam tape. And speaking of foam tape, I think my cat just knows when I bring out the foam tape and comes running. So you're going to see her throughout this section of the video trying to grab my foam tape because she is a foam tape addict and a foam tape thief. I would say I'm a foam tape addict, but it's okay because I've purchased it, right? She just steals mine. So you can see as we go through, I'm kind of auditioning my sticker pieces on where I want to put them down for the final product, and couldn't decide if I wanted some of these over or under the photos, but you'll see where I kind of end up with everything overlapping, and some under the photo on the right and this one over the photo on the left. And just adding lots of dimension, which I really like in my layouts and scrapbooks. I know some people like them to be relatively flat, but I am a lover of lots of dimension. So I go through the 3D foam tape quite a bit. So while I'm adding all of these embellishments, this is a good time to remind you that if you are liking my videos, please hit that like button. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate you subscribing to my channel as well. Now we'll continue to embellish this a little bit more. And there's that cat again. I used to try to just move her away, and I have just accepted that she's going to be a co-host in my videos, and she loves to watch, so if that's the worst thing that happens, I can deal with it. So kind of wrapping these up, and I'm also going to bring in some sparkles at the end, but here I'm using this, it's called Barely Art glue. It's basically the same as our Tombow. It works just as well. But what I like about it is it has that really fine tip for pieces like this. So I do use it for these really fine pieces. And then I decided to add in some of the hearts as embellishments as well from the paperboard pieces. So I'm going to put those around some of my flower clusters. And the cat even wants my pin for the glue, so I have to tuck that in over at the side. I'm going to glue some of these around. You'll notice I'm also doing some of the blue, which is the mist color, and then some of the wood grain as well to help tie in with that wood grain title. I didn't want the title to be the only thing in the wood grain, so I wanted to bring in some of the wood grain hearts to help that kind of connect. And you can't see it off there to the left, but I'm just pulling those out of the carrier sheet with my tweezers. And if you don't have the Close to My Heart tweezers, they are amazing. I'm taking a last audition here at my sticker sheet to make sure there's nothing else I want to add, and putting some final touches on here. And then I'll bring in my glitter gems. So I'm going to add a few of those on here. Again, just kind of around my cluster areas. Give this just a little sparkle and glitz. And I noticed at the very end that I forgot to add the eye to my memories. So I'm going to add that eye onto the memories, and that will be my final touch. And the layout will be complete. Okay, so here's the completed layout. You see I have my beautiful folded ribbon there. I did cover up that carpet piece I wanted to cover with all the dimension and the flowers. You can still see my random stamping flowers there, my flower clusters, and I really like how that title shows up. So hope you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to give me the thumbs up on the like, and appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.